What are the things that you need to take care of while planning your next trip? In this video, I'm going to break down the process of planning the perfect travel. So without further ado, let's get started. There are so many places to see in the world, so many things to do, but we never seem to have the time because we are always caught up in something going on in our lives. But it is important for us to step out of our usual environment, go and see some new sights and have new experiences. I admit it seems near impossible to find the time to travel to a new place when we're constantly juggling our personal lives, our social lives, and our careers. So when you finally do get the time, how do you make the most of it? You plan the perfect trip. Hello and welcome to the channel. If you're here for the first time, my name is Raghav Kapoor, and if you've been here before, welcome back. Nice to see you. I believe the time is limited, but I also believe that with a little planning, you can make the most of this limited time. See, traveling without a plan is a lot of fun. You have a lot of freedom, you can do whatever you want, whenever you want, and most importantly, you can change your destinations, you can change the way you will travel to your destinations, so there are no foundations. In the beginning of 2019, I decided to take a break from my law career and I went on a backpacking trip across India for the whole of 2019. No plans, very tight budget and total freedom. I learned on this trip that because I did not have plans, I ran into a lot of problems. There were a lot of aspects that were beyond my control, which is where I learned having a plan is great if you have limited time. Which is why I decided to make this video so that next time you have a long weekend coming up, you know exactly what to do with it. If there is a destination that you've always wanted to see or a new experience that you've wanted to try for a while, you can go and do that. Execute that trip, execute that plan, and go have some new experiences in your life. All you have to do is follow these steps. Step number 1, time. How much time are you going to set aside for your trip? Is it going to be a weekend, a week, a whole month, or a whole year? As a general rule, the more time you have, the more flexibility you should be having. For example, if you are traveling for less than a week, I would recommend that you have all your arrangements already made, like transport and accommodation, which I will be dealing with in the following steps. But if you're traveling for, let's say, a month, then my recommendation would be that you plan only for 1 week, and for the next 3 weeks you have a general blueprint, but you don't make any bookings for the next 3 weeks so that you have the freedom to choose differently after experiencing that 1 week of travel. But once you make the bookings, then you're bound, and then you have to make cancellations if you have change of heart, change of plans, which is probably not the best thing to do. So the amount of time that you are willing to set aside for your trip will define the amount of planning that should go into it. Step number 2, budget. How much money are you willing to set aside for this trip? It is a good idea to take the total amount and divide it by the number of days that you will be traveling for. This gives you the spending capacity for each day, and then you know how much money you can allocate to your major expenses like accommodation, traveling, food, and maybe local experiences. As a general rule, again, the more number of days you'll be traveling for, the higher your budget will be. But what I've also learned after traveling for over a year on a very short budget is that you don't really need a lot of money to travel. If you intend to have a short budget, you can still have an adventure. You can go backpacking style. You can choose cheaper modes of transport. You can choose to stay in hostels, which are an experience in themselves. I personally love staying in hostels. And if you wish to spend a lot of money, that is good too. Sometimes you want a lot of comfort, and that is why all those luxurious hotels and resorts are for. Just think of it like this: the more money you spend, the more comfort you get. But how I see it is that once you have your basic necessities, once your basic comfort is taken care of, any more is not going to bring about any substantial change. It is definitely a great idea to get out of your comfort zone. So I suggest that you don't break your bank for your next trip or your travel. Spend enough but not everything. Have something when you get back, and don't let a short budget discourage you from taking your next travel. Step number 3, destination. What do you want to see? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Do you want to breathe into the cold, fresh mountain air? Or do you want to see the sun dip into the ocean at the beach? Do you want to perhaps see a historical monument or maybe have a religious experience? Do you want to see something specific like tea harvesting at a tea estate? Or maybe paragliding if you're into that? This step is probably not very difficult for you to figure out because most of us already know what we want. but make sure that whatever destination you choose fits into the resources that you have, which is the time and money that you've set aside for this trip. If you're traveling for a short amount of time, make sure that the destination is not too far off, because you will be spending a lot of time traveling and getting to that place, which is tiring. And if you have a lot of time, then you can go anywhere you want. It doesn't really matter. Destination. This is probably the most exciting step. So I can already visualize and dream about that place and when I'm gonna get there, how it's gonna be. But moving on. So we have decided our destination and the resources available to us for this trip. That is time and money. Now we have to make the arrangements to execute the trip. The whole idea of planning the trip is to ensure optimum utilization of time. Remember, I said time is limited. Well, so we have to ensure that there is minimum wastage of time by making decisions well in advance. This also gives us better control over the situation on the day that we have to leave for our trip. Now, when I was traveling, I didn't have any plans. So I would wake up in the morning, choose my destination, and then proceed to find the cheapest way to get there. If I wasn't hitchhiking, I would look at train timetables and see if there were any buses to my destination. And because everything happened so last minute, I ended up going to a different place because I couldn't find a way to get to my original chosen destination. Now that doesn't happen if you have a plan, when you have everything sorted in advance. And with that, we come to our next step. Step number 4, transport. I personally believe that the journey is as important as the destination, if not more. So I never like to take the quickest way. But this approach usually works if you have a lot of time to spare, let's say 2 weeks or more. But if I had 3 days or let's say a week or less, I would want to get to my destination as soon as possible. But I also have to consider, if the quickest way to my destination is a flight, does my budget afford me a flight ticket? So we have to ask ourselves a few questions while deciding what mode of transportation we will be taking to get to our destination. I've written down the questions, but it's very logical. How far is your destination? What all modes of transportation can you take to get to your destination? How much time does it take for each mode of transportation to take you to your destination? And the final question, which mode of transport can you fit in your budget and your time constraint? Simple. So once you run through these questions, you will know which mode is best for your situation. Now once you reach your destination, you will need a place to put down your luggage before you go out and explore. And hopefully also have a place to sleep in the night, which brings us to our next step. Step number 5, accommodation. I was once traveling to Aizawl, the capital of Mizoram in northeast India. I had no plans, no reservations, and I ended up reaching Aizawl at 12 in the night.
Finally at 12:57 मैं आइजवल पहुंच गया हूँ. So late कि मैं अगर होटल से कॉल कर रहा हूँ और अगर वो उठाते हैं तो वो कहते हैं कि रूम नहीं है हमारे पास.
I was unable to find a bed, I was unable to find a room for myself. I ended up sleeping on the streets that night. For me, it was an adventure, definitely a new experience. But if you don't want to have such adventures, make sure to plan your accommodations. Make sure to have your bookings in place before you even leave for your trip. Booking your accommodation will depend entirely upon your budget and of course your minimum level of comfort. But if you're traveling on a low budget, I would highly recommend that you look into hostels. Hostels provide you with a single bed for usually less than 500 rupees in most places, and you get a single bed in a huge dormitory which has ranging from 4 to 8 beds depending on the hostel. Now the only drawback of staying in a hostel is that you don't have a lot of privacy because you're essentially sharing your room with strangers. But the way I see it is that you are in a room full of strangers from different places.
And let's hit it.
Different cultures.
Alag cultures and all that.
And you get to make new friends, tell travel stories, or make new ones, which I feel is the essence of traveling in a way. But if that is not your cup of tea and you are looking for a little more privacy, you could always look for private rooms in hotels and resorts. Even hostels have private rooms, so you can always keep your options open. When I actually get down to booking my accommodations, I will first go to Google and type in destination space places to stay, which gives me a list of all the places that are there where I can find accommodation along with their prices. But this is not where I'm going to book my accommodation. I will go to my phone, check out all these applications like makemytrip.com, GoIbibo, Agoda.com, Booking.com, and from here I will see which application gives me the best price and then make my booking, because पैसा बचाना किसे नहीं पसंद. If you follow these 5 steps, you'll be able to plan a decent trip, and getting from point A to point B, which is your final destination, will be very easy. But I feel there's a little more information that I want to give you, which is when you go to a new place, what are you going to do there? So do some research, type into Google destination space places to see or destination space things to do, and this will give you a list of things or unique experiences that are there at your final destination. And when you actually reach that place, you should talk to locals and ask them what is unique about their place, what is different about their place, and you'll be surprised at the number of times you'll get information that you were not able to find on Google. I personally, whenever I go to a new place, I like to taste the cuisine, how it is different from the place that I come from. Also, another important thing that you should keep in mind is that you might have to spend a little money where you thought you wouldn't have to. For example, if you're going to see a historical monument, you will have to pay some amount as entry fee.
One ticket.
And if you're an Indian citizen, then you don't have to pay a lot of money. But if you're a foreign national, then you have to pay a few times over what Indian citizen has to pay. Also, if you're bringing cameras along with you, you will have to pay for the cameras as well in most places. And this doesn't apply just to national monuments, it will also apply to some experiences. Like when I was in Nongriat in Meghalaya, I was going to see the double-decker bridge, which is a natural bridge, and I had to pay 20 rupees for my DSLR looking like camera, which is actually a mirrorless camera. But they saw my GoPro and they charged me 100 rupees for the GoPro as well. So you have to pay these fees. And also another important thing that you should consider while going to a destination is that do you need any sort of permit to go there? Because if you go towards the northeast, because those areas are close to the borders, you will need to get an inner line permit.
Getting into Mizoram is not a very easy task. सबसे पहले आपको एक inner line permit चाहिए होगा.
You can apply for these permits online or you can get them when you reach the border. So just be a little aware and do a Google search before you set out for your destination. I think these are all the things that you need to take care of while planning your next trip. This is the basic outline and it ensures that you get to your destination and have a place to sleep in the night. Everything else, you do not plan it. You have to leave a lot of flexibility in your travel, because then you let the universe bring the magic of uncertainty. We've only done precursory planning and we've received some information on what we can do over there, but when you get there, things will not always go according to plans. And plans are just precautionary measures. Plans don't always work. Flights can get cancelled, trains can get cancelled, hotels can cancel your bookings. You've reached there and you realize, oh, there's some hiccup, there's some technical glitch. Anything can happen. Natural calamities. Your whole travel plan goes, your boss cancels your holiday. Anything can happen, right? So never over plan, just be prepared and then let the magic come to you. I feel that I've covered all the important things in this video, but if you think I've missed out on something important, make sure to leave it in the comments, enlighten me, and I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Hey, before you go, if you enjoyed this video, if you learned something new, make sure to hit the like button. And if you're new here, if you've never seen me before, this is the first time you're seeing me, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and I'm going to see you very soon. Also, share this video with people, people who like to travel, who don't know how to plan a trip, who never know how to make their plan to go out, disappointing people. Share it with them.